Take a deep breath, and let the stories of humanity's distant past guide your mind tonight. Picture this. You wake up not to the shrill ring of an alarm, but to the distant howl of a wolf pack moving silently through the valley below. The air is sharp and cold, carrying the scent of the woods. And something else, something wild that quickens your heartbeat. There is no ceiling above you, only the vast canopy of stars, beginning to fade as dawn approaches. This is not a camping trip. This is not a survival show. This is life, 1.8 million years ago. For our ancestors, this was simply another day. Imagine the world around them, glaciers stretching across continents, rivers carving deep valleys, and a sky filled with creatures we can barely fathom today. Despite what we might assume about such a harsh environment, these early humans were not primitive cave dwellers cowering in fear. They were sophisticated hunters, innovators, and survivalists, mastering their surroundings in ways that would challenge even the most prepared modern adventurer. Every plant, every animal track, every subtle shift in the weather was a message they could read, and they understood it instinctively. They lived in small, tight-knit bands, typically between 20 and 50 individuals, bound together by kinship, shared knowledge, and mutual dependence. Every person had a role, and every skill mattered. The loss of even one individual could threaten the survival of the entire group. They navigated a world filled with dangers and wonders. Woolly mammoths towering over 10 feet at the shoulder cave bears, weighing over 500 pounds saber-toothed cats, with their lethal curved fangs, giant condors circling the skies, and rivers teeming with salmon so dense you could almost walk across them. Humans were both predator and prey, hunter and hunted, constantly alert, always calculating the next move. Yet, in the face of such immense challenges, our ancestors thrived. They developed hunting strategies capable of bringing down animals 10 times their size. They created tools from stone, bone, and antler with precision so refined that a single spear point could be the difference between life and death. Fire was their ally, not only for warmth and cooking, but as a tool for shaping the landscape, driving game, and crafting essential materials. The creation of a spear point, for instance, was no simple task. It required deep knowledge of geology, physics, and material science, understanding which stone would hold an edge, how to strike it precisely, and how it would perform when thrust into the hide of a charging mammoth. Daily life was exhausting, even for children. Boys and girls began learning to track animals and identify edible plants as early as 5 years old. By adolescence, they had mastered skills that would shame modern wilderness experts. Women were far from passive gatherers. They were hunters, tool makers, and guardians of essential survival knowledge. They knew the roots that sustained the band through harsh winters, how to craft medicines from bark and leaves, and how to fashion clothing and shelters capable of withstanding freezing temperatures. Their layered clothing systems, crafted from sinew, bone needles, and treated hides, could keep a person alive in conditions that would shut down modern cities. Art was not forgotten. Even amid the struggle for survival, our ancestors painted, carved, and created music. Cave paintings, intricate figurines, and decorated tools were not mere decoration. They were expressions of intellect, skill, and spiritual understanding. These creations suggest humans were compelled to express beauty and meaning, even while living on the knife's edge of existence. Their dwellings, made from wood, animal hides, or mammoth bones, were sophisticated structures with designated areas for sleeping, storing food, and crafting tools. Nothing in their world was random. Everything served a purpose, and yet it was infused with creativity. Social organization was the cornerstone of their survival. They shared food according to rules that ensured the entire group benefited, cared for the elderly and injured, and passed knowledge across generations without writing. They maintained long-distance networks for trade and cultural exchange, moving obsidian, shells, and art across hundreds of miles. Their children learned through doing, observing, and participating, developing encyclopedic knowledge of plants, animals, weather patterns, and even the stars, which served as calendar, compass, and storytelling medium. Nightfall brought its own rituals. Sleep was strategic, with fire tending, predator watches, and careful positioning to protect the most vulnerable. Sounds of the wild were evaluated constantly, Wolf howls, snapping branches, or splashing in streams could mean life or death. Yet there was beauty too. The soft crackle of fires, the gentle wind in pine boughs, the steady breathing of loved ones, a reminder of the delicate balance between danger and safety. Even dreams were intertwined with survival, replaying landscapes, animals, and lessons learned throughout the day. Autumn was a time of preparation. Food preservation was paramount. Meat was smoked over carefully maintained fires, combined with rendered fat and berries to create long-lasting sustenance. Tools were crafted with meticulous care. Clothing systems were perfected to provide insulation, waterproofing, and mobility. Every action, from hunting to storytelling, sewing to tool-making, contributed to a cycle of survival, learning, and culture that sustained the group through harsh winters and unpredictable conditions. These were not primitive humans. They were highly sophisticated, adaptive, and ingenious. They mastered a way of life that allowed them not only to survive, but to thrive across continents, laying the foundation for the future of humanity. In every spear thrown, every fire tended, every story told, they demonstrated resilience, cooperation, and creativity, a testament to the enduring spirit of our species. As the first pale light of dawn breaks across the rugged landscape, our ancestors stir. Their world is both beautiful and unforgiving, a tapestry of forests, rivers, and mountains that shift with the seasons. Each day is a calculated dance between survival and opportunity, and the morning hours are sacred. The hunters rise quietly, not to chase sport, but to follow patterns etched into memory across countless generations. They move with precision, using the terrain as their ally, reading every footprint, every broken branch, every subtle scent in the air. Leading the hunt is often a figure whose knowledge transcends mere experience. Let us call her Raven. She has survived decades in this world by understanding animals as well as humans understand each other. A bent blade of grass, a disturbed patch of soil, a single footprint. These are clues she reads like an open book. Today, she tracks a herd of reindeer, moving across valleys and dense pine forests, through boulders left behind by glaciers that vanished millennia ago. The herd will follow its ancient migration path, and Raven knows precisely where to intercept it. Behind her, a small team of hunters, both men and women, carry weapons that embody centuries of trial, error, and ingenuity. Spear points chipped from flint traded hundreds of miles, shafts balanced for precision, and atlatls to launch projectiles with extraordinary force. Every tool is the product of a deep understanding of materials and physics, combined with human dexterity honed over lifetimes. But the most dangerous weapon in their arsenal is knowledge. They know how animals behave, when they rest, when they move, and how to position themselves to succeed without alerting prey. Children and adolescents are not idle observers. They participate actively in the preparation, learning to select stones for fire-making, shape tools, and process hides. By contributing to these daily tasks, they internalize essential knowledge that could one day save lives. Education is hands-on, brutal, and efficient. By the age of 12, a child already possesses skills that would take modern wilderness experts years to acquire. When the herd reaches the natural bottleneck Raven predicted, the hunt begins. Spears fly with uncanny accuracy. Within minutes, 3 massive animals fall. It is not cruelty. It is survival distilled to its purest form. Immediately, the band transforms into a meticulously coordinated processing unit. Every part of the kill is used. Meat is butchered with precision to maximize yield. Hides are cleaned, treated, and prepared for clothing and shelter. Bones are split for marrow and fashioned into tools. Tendons become bowstrings. Hooves are rendered into glue. Stomach linings serve as water containers. Nothing is wasted because in this world, waste is a fatal luxury. Even amid this rigorous labor, life is not devoid of beauty. Around the fire, stories emerge. Stories that preserve knowledge, teach ethics, and entertain. The elderly storyteller, whose hands are too arthritic for toolwork, recounts tales like that of Mammoth Walker, a mythical figure whose wisdom guides both humans and animals. These narratives embed survival lessons within memorable, captivating tales, ensuring knowledge endures across generations. The children listen intently, learning as much from the story as from the work they have performed during the day. As darkness descends, Sleep is approached strategically. Elders and children are placed in the safest positions, surrounded by vigilant adults. Fires are tended to provide warmth and protection. Weapons remain within reach. Every sound is evaluated. A wolf howl, a snapping branch, the rustle of leaves, all are clues to survival. The night is alive with both threat and comfort, a duality that teaches constant awareness and respect for the environment. Autumn brings preparation for winter, a time of intricate planning and execution. Meat must be preserved without refrigeration. Thin strips are hung on wooden racks, smoked over carefully chosen woods for both flavor and antimicrobial protection. Rendered fat is combined with berries to make pemmican, a nutrient-rich, long-lasting sustenance that can last months if properly stored. Underground caches lined with stone and hide are hidden along migration routes and near winter camps, ensuring access to critical resources during lean months. Toolmakers dedicate hours to their craft, producing implements that must perform flawlessly. Composite tools combine flint, bone, antler, and sinew into objects far superior to their individual components. A spear's balance, flexibility, and sharpness are a testament to human ingenuity and understanding of materials. Every strike, every flake removed, is precise, calculated, and purposeful. Clothing and shelter systems are equally sophisticated. Base layers from soft hides provide comfort, insulating layers trap warmth, and outer layers shed water while resisting tearing. Footwear must provide traction, insulation, and durability, all while remaining flexible for long-distance travel. Patterns and decorations identify roles and achievements within the group, blending utility with communication and artistry. These innovations are not luxuries, they are the difference between life and death. The human mind is fully engaged, every sense alert, and every action deliberate. Observation, memory, creativity, and social coordination converge to create a sustainable way of life. These communities are not struggling to survive. They are thriving in ways that modern humans can scarcely comprehend. They have mastered the art of existence in a world where uncertainty is the only constant. As the crisp autumn air gives way to the first whispers of winter, the band's focus shifts from hunting to preparation and preservation. Each day is a careful balancing act between survival and the long-term needs of the community. The knowledge accumulated over generations becomes invaluable. This is a world where forgetting a lesson could mean starvation or death, and where meticulous attention to detail is as vital as strength or speed. Food storage is a complex science. Women, often the most experienced in preservation techniques, oversee the drying and smoking of meat. Strips are hung at optimal heights to catch wind and sunlight, while smoke from pine, oak, and birch delivers natural antibacterial properties. Rendered fat is mixed with dried berries to create pemmican, a high-calorie, long-lasting energy source for hunters and gatherers venturing far from camp. These tasks are communal, engaging elders, adults, and children alike. Each generation participates, ensuring that practical knowledge, once learned, is never lost. Shelter and clothing evolve to meet the harsh realities of the coming cold. The band constructs layered dwellings from available resources, wood where forests exist, mammoth bones where trees are scarce. Frameworks of long bones support animal hide coverings, creating structures large enough for multiple families. Layered clothing systems, carefully crafted from hides and furs, provide insulation while allowing mobility. The outermost layers are treated for waterproofing and adorned with patterns that signify skill, achievements, or social role within the band. Footwear is engineered for extreme conditions: thick soles, insulated layers, and natural treads designed for ice and snow. Beyond the physical necessities, social organization is the backbone of survival. The band operates with rules of cooperation, conflict resolution, and resource sharing that have no written code but are as rigid as any law. Successful hunts are shared equitably. Elders and injured members are cared for meticulously. Knowledge is passed down orally in structured, memorable ways. This is human ingenuity at its purest, systems of governance and culture evolving not from abstract theory, but from practical necessity. Children grow up in a rigorous, hands-on educational environment. By observing and participating, they internalize skills essential to life. They learn to track animals, identify edible and medicinal plants, make tools, and construct shelters. Mistakes carry immediate consequences, teaching lessons no classroom ever could. Their mental map of the landscape is encyclopedic. Every rock formation, stream, and tree becomes a marker. Every wind shift and cloud pattern a signal. Stars guide them at night. Constellations become calendars and compasses. By adolescence, they are adept hunters, gatherers, navigators, and artisans. The arrival of winter intensifies the daily rhythm. Food becomes scarce, and every decision matters. Groups often divide tasks strategically. Some venture to hunt, others forage for last season berries, nuts, and roots. Toolmakers repair and craft implements, ensuring every spear, knife, and atlatl is in peak condition. Fire tenders maintain warmth, control smoke to avoid attracting predators, and manage embers for cooking and preservation. The elderly, though less mobile, are invaluable repositories of knowledge, remembering routes, techniques, and rituals that guide the community through the months of scarcity. Art and culture persist, despite the demands of survival. Cave walls and rock shelters are adorned with images of animals, humans, and symbolic patterns. These works are not merely decorative. They encode knowledge, spiritual beliefs, and social identity. Musical instruments, flutes carved from bird bones or mammoth ivory, fill the long nights with sound, strengthening bonds and passing time when work cannot be done. Even in a world where life hangs by a thread, humans express creativity, demonstrating that survival and culture are intertwined. The winter hunt, if successful, is a monumental operation. Large animals like reindeer or bison are taken down with precision, coordinated over days of tracking. But this is only part of the challenge. The kill must be processed immediately and efficiently. Meat is butchered, dried, or smoked. Hides are transformed into clothing and shelter materials. Bones become tools. Antlers become weapon handles. Sinews are twisted into cordage. Nothing is wasted. Every resource is optimized. Communication within the band is sophisticated. Signals, hand gestures, vocal calls, and subtle body movements allow coordination during hunts and travel. Stories are retold around fires not just for entertainment, but as mnemonic devices, embedding essential survival knowledge in memorable narrative forms. Legends, rituals, and moral lessons are intertwined, ensuring that wisdom persists and the cultural identity of the group remains intact. Health and medicine are practical yet sophisticated. Plants and herbs are recognized for their medicinal properties. Simple procedures treat injuries, reduce infections, and soothe pain. Knowledge of human anatomy, gathered through observation and necessity, informs these practices. Women often serve as midwives, herbalists, and healers, roles critical to the band's survival. Winter nights are long, but they are not idle. Beyond storytelling, elders train adolescents in observation, problem-solving, and craftsmanship. They demonstrate techniques for fire starting, shelter construction, and tool repair. The rhythm of life alternates between labor and learning, each activity ensuring that the next generation is prepared. The band also maintains relationships with neighboring groups. Objects, tools, and materials are traded over distances, from obsidian to seashells, ensuring access to scarce resources. These interactions are carefully negotiated, often involving shared rituals, ceremonies, and the exchange of knowledge. Human networks stretch across landscapes, connecting communities in webs of survival and culture. Even amidst constant vigilance and labor, moments of human intimacy and joy emerge. Children play games that mimic hunting, forging skills while bonding socially. Adults share meals and stories, laugh, and maintain relationships that strengthen cooperation and trust. The environment demands excellence, yet within that demand, humans cultivate community, creativity, and care. By the end of winter, the band emerges tempered and resilient. They have survived months of scarcity, danger, and harsh weather through cooperation, ingenuity, and skill. They are not primitive. They are masters of their environment, artists, engineers, strategists, and storytellers. Their lives are a testament to human adaptability, creativity, and endurance. This world, 1.8 million years ago, is both harsh and beautiful. Every element, from the smallest plant to the largest predator, is woven into the fabric of daily life. Humans exist not apart from nature but within it, reading, responding, and shaping their surroundings with intelligence and care. They live fully, experiencing hardship, triumph, and beauty, with an intensity that modern civilization can scarcely imagine. As the first snows of winter blanket the valleys and forests, the band's life is governed by cycles as old as the earth itself. Every sunrise and sunset carries meaning, every star in the sky a guide for survival. Humans are no longer simply reacting to their environment. They are anticipating it, adapting, and shaping it with foresight honed over countless generations. Winter is a test of endurance. Food scarcity is real, and every meal requires planning. Groups split tasks strategically. Hunters venture farther afield, while gatherers harvest the last of winter roots and nuts. Fires are maintained continuously, their warmth a lifeline against frost that could freeze flesh within hours. Elders monitor the health of the community, noting signs of illness or fatigue, and applying herbal remedies with the precision of a modern-day pharmacist. Rituals and symbolic practices emerge as integral parts of daily life. The harsh realities of survival are intertwined with meaning, connection, and spirituality. Cave paintings, etched symbols, and decorated tools are not mere decoration. They reflect a worldview where humans, animals, and the environment are linked in complex relationships. Certain animals are revered, their behaviors interpreted as omens or lessons. Large predators inspire both fear and respect, shaping stories that teach caution, strategy, and empathy. The band's children grow up in a world where play is education. Games mimic hunting scenarios, teaching coordination, stealth, and teamwork. Adolescents begin to participate in real hunts, initially assisting elders, then gradually taking on leadership roles as their skills mature. Every lesson, every challenge, is embedded in the context of survival, yet it carries an unspoken thread of culture, narrative, and human expression. Daily routines are rigorous, yet structured. Men and women alternate between essential survival work, education, and creative endeavors. Tool-making continues even in the coldest months. Flint is knapped into precise spear points. Antlers and bones are carved into knives, needles, and decorative items. The process requires knowledge, dexterity, and immense patience, qualities revered within the band. Success in tool-making can determine the fate of the community during the harsh months, as one faulty spear could mean the loss of a crucial hunt. Art and storytelling are not abandoned in winter. They thrive. Around carefully tended fires, elders recount tales that preserve collective memory, instill moral lessons, and entertain. Stories of Mammoth Walker, the legendary figure who could communicate with the great beasts, or of cunning hunters who outwitted predators, serve as both instruction and inspiration. Children memorize plots, symbols, and lessons, internalizing knowledge that may save their lives one day. Oral tradition is the lifeblood of culture, encoding information far more complex than a modern observer might imagine. Spirituality is subtle, but present. Certain rituals accompany the changing seasons, marking solstices, migrations, and hunting successes. Offerings might be left at sacred sites, symbolic carvings made in caves, or songs sung to honor the animals that provide sustenance. These acts are practical as well as spiritual. They reinforce community bonds, instill patience, and remind every member of the interconnectedness of life. The natural world is never a backdrop. It is a participant, teacher, and sometimes adversary in daily existence. The relationship with animals is multifaceted. Humans are hunters, but they are also observers and interpreters of behavior. They understand migration patterns, feeding habits, and social structures of prey species. The wolves, bears, and saber-tooths are threats, yet they are also part of a moral and ecological narrative embedded in stories and rituals. Respect and awareness govern interactions, influencing hunting strategies, tool development, and social norms. Survival strategies during winter are astonishingly complex. The band maintains caches of preserved food, carefully hidden and guarded. Snow and ice are used to refrigerate certain items, while smoke and wind help prevent spoilage. Firewood is gathered and stockpiled, balanced between immediate need and long-term planning. Every aspect of life is a calculated response to scarcity and environmental challenges, yet it is executed with creativity, intuition, and cooperation. Social cohesion is paramount. Disputes are resolved quickly to prevent fracture. Knowledge is shared openly because secrecy could endanger lives. Children are taught from an early age that cooperation is survival, that selfishness can bring ruin, and that wisdom is as valuable as physical strength. Leadership is practical. Those with the most experience, insight, or specialized skill guide decisions, yet every voice has value in shaping the group's strategy and direction. Even in this harsh climate, humans pursue beauty. Clothing is functional, yes, but often decorated with meaningful patterns. Tools may carry carvings or symbols, turning everyday implements into cultural statements. Shelter is engineered not only for warmth, but for efficiency, security, and sometimes aesthetics, with careful arrangement of sleeping areas, cooking spaces, and workstations. Beauty and utility exist side by side, reinforcing the idea that human expression is inseparable from survival. Community gatherings during winter nights are moments of profound connection. Meals shared around the fire reinforce bonds. Songs, dances, and stories weave a tapestry of culture that strengthens identity and cooperation. Adults mentor youths, elders recount lessons learned, and children absorb knowledge through observation, imitation, and participation. Every activity, no matter how mundane it seems, carries cultural and survival significance. As winter reaches its peak, the band's resilience is tested further. Storms block travel, game becomes scarce, and cold intensifies. Yet through foresight, cooperation, and skill, the community endures. Fire, clothing, shelters, and preserved food are their lifelines. Their ability to adapt, innovate, and maintain social cohesion allows them to survive when lesser groups might falter. Even amid scarcity and danger, moments of joy exist. Laughter from children's games, the warmth of shared stories, and the beauty of a clear star-filled sky remind the band of the richness of life. These small pleasures are as vital as food or fire. They sustain morale, creativity, and the human spirit itself. By observing these seasonal rhythms, we gain insight into the sophisticated balance our ancestors maintained between survival and culture, pragmatism and beauty, necessity and creativity. Winter, though harsh, is not merely a time of hardship. It is a stage on which humans demonstrate ingenuity, resilience, and the enduring power of community. The morning sun crept across the horizon, turning the savannah into a shimmering sea of golden grass. The world of 1.8 million years ago was a place both familiar and alien. Herds of antelope and zebra grazed under the watchful eye of predators, while birds of prey circled above, waiting for the smallest sign of weakness. Yet amidst this raw, untamed wilderness, the true story was not only about the animals that roamed the plains, but about the early humans who were learning, adapting, and carving out their place in this unforgiving world. For these early ancestors, Homo erectus, life was a daily gamble. Unlike the powerful saber-toothed cats or the immense elephants that dominated the land, humans did not rely on strength or size. Instead, they were learning to rely on something far more powerful: their minds. Stone tools were their lifeline. Sharp flakes chipped from river rocks became knives for cutting meat. Heavy hand axes, carefully shaped, became the universal tool of survival, used for chopping wood, butchering animals, and even digging roots. For the first time in history, a creature was reshaping nature not with claws or teeth, but with thought. But even with tools, danger never lurked far away. Imagine a small group of early humans clustered around the remains of a fallen antelope. They worked quickly, slicing meat from bone with their stone tools. Every second mattered, because at any moment the scent of fresh blood could draw in hyenas, lions, or even the towering short-faced bear. Survival was a race, and humans were always at the bottom of the predator chain, unless they acted together. This was the great leap forward of 1.8 million years ago. Cooperation. Early humans began to realize that together, they were stronger. A lone hunter might be nothing compared to a lion, but a band of humans, armed with stones and sticks, shouting and moving as one, could drive predators away. This was not yet civilization, But the seeds of society were being planted. Around the fire, gestures and sounds slowly grew into the beginnings of language. Around the kill site, shared effort grew into trust, and fire itself, though rare at this stage, was starting to be recognized as more than just a natural force. Lightning strikes and brush fires would have terrified earlier creatures, but humans were different. They studied fire. They stayed close when it burned. They learned its warmth, its light, and its protection. The first sparks of mastery were forming, not yet the control of fire but the deep fascination with it. One day, this would transform everything. As the day stretched into afternoon, the humans of this time moved through their world with caution and curiosity. They knew where the fruit trees grew, when to follow herds, and how to find water by reading the land. They were not wanderers without purpose. They were survivors with memory, slowly building knowledge of their environment. Every hunt, every danger, every close escape was stored in their minds and passed to the next generation. This was life, 1.8 million years ago. A fragile existence balanced on the edge of danger, yet filled with the first sparks of intelligence, community, and creativity. It was here, in this crucible of survival, that humanity began to take its first true steps toward becoming the dominant species on Earth. The heat of the afternoon settled heavy across the open plains. The grasses swayed in the dry breeze, tall enough to conceal danger yet thin enough to expose anyone bold enough to walk in the open. For the early humans who lived 1.8 million years ago, every step across this land was a calculation between risk and survival. Predators were everywhere, and the savannah was not a place of peace. It was a battlefield of instinct. Picture a group of early humans moving in a loose circle, their sharp eyes scanning the horizon. They were not hunters in the way lions or leopards were. They did not possess the speed of a cheetah or the crushing jaws of a hyena. Instead, they relied on strategy. They were learning to be opportunists, scavengers who could turn patience into survival. When a lion pride abandoned its kill, these humans would move in. When vultures circled above, they followed. Their reward was not the entire animal, but the scraps, the marrow within bones, the meat overlooked by other predators. And yet, in those scraps lay the fuel for their growing brains. It was this diet, rich in fat and protein, that began to separate early humans from the other primates. The energy of meat fed their minds, allowing their brains to grow larger than ever before. A new balance was forming. The body remained vulnerable, but the mind was becoming the greatest weapon. The savannah was teaching them, molding them, forcing them to adapt in ways no creature had before. But danger was constant. At night, the world transformed. The sun dipped below the horizon, and with it, the fragile sense of safety disappeared. The roars of lions carried across the plains. Hyenas shrieked in the distance. Crocodiles lurked in rivers and watering holes. For these early humans, the night was not a time of rest. It was a test of endurance. They huddled together for protection, climbing into trees or hiding among rocks. They had no fire yet to keep predators at bay. Only the strength of their group and the sharpness of their stone tools kept them alive. Still, even in the dark, their minds were at work. They watched how animals moved. They remembered where predators prowled. They learned which plants could be eaten and which caused sickness. Slowly, knowledge became survival. The children of these groups grew up surrounded by lessons carried not through words as we know them today, but through imitation, gesture, and sound. Each generation became stronger, sharper, more aware. By daybreak, the cycle continued. The humans moved again, chasing the herds, searching for water and watching the skies. This was the rhythm of life 1.8 million years ago, a rhythm guided by survival, yet slowly shaped by intelligence. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about these early humans was not just their tools or their diets, but their sense of community. They were beginning to understand that survival was not an individual pursuit. A single human alone would almost certainly perish, but together, a group could stand against even the harshest of predators. If one fell ill, others would wait. If one was wounded, others helped carry them along. These were the sparks of something greater, the beginnings of empathy, of shared struggle, of humanity itself. The land they walked was harsh, but it was also full of wonder. Towering elephants larger than any alive today roamed the plains. Saber-toothed cats stalked silently in the tall grass. Gigantic birds with wingspans wider than a man's height soared above. And through it all, the humans walked among them. Not the strongest, not the fastest, but the ones who were learning. In every stone tool, in every shared hunt, in every cautious step through the savannah, they were laying the foundations for the future. They could not have known it, but the lives they lived, the struggles they endured, and the knowledge they gained would echo through millions of years, leading eventually to us. This was not just survival. This was the slow rise of humanity, written in sweat, blood, and the relentless will to endure. The sun sank low, spilling long shadows across the endless grasslands. For early humans, the end of the day was the most dangerous time of all. The heat of the afternoon faded into cool winds, and with the dark came hunters, eyes glinting in the tall grass, jaws ready to strike. But 1.8 million years ago, our ancestors were not merely prey. They were beginning to stand their ground, beginning to turn fear into strategy. A small group gathered near the remains of a brush fire. The flames had long since died, but the memory of it lingered. Fire was still wild, beyond their control, yet they were drawn to it. They saw how predators avoided the burned earth, how light pierced the night, how warmth eased the cold. They did not yet know how to make fire, but they were beginning to understand its power. This curiosity, this ability to look at nature not with terror but with imagination, was humanity's greatest step forward. And in those dark nights, as the group huddled close, something else was stirring, the beginnings of communication. Not language as we know it, but sounds, gestures, and expressions that carried meaning. A sharp cry could warn of a predator. A hand signal could direct others during a hunt. A shared rhythm of calls and gestures could bind a group together. These small sparks of communication lit the path to culture, memory, and story. Humanity was beginning to find its voice. The world around them was both hostile and rich. Towering elephants larger than any alive today walked slowly across the horizon. Saber-toothed cats prowled with deadly silence. Giant birds pecked at the remains of fallen creatures. The air was alive with danger, but also with possibility. For these early humans, the land was not simply a place they lived in. It was a vast living puzzle they had to solve. Each day was a lesson. They learned where the water holes dried up in the dry season. They tracked herds across long distances. They scavenged meat when predators left behind scraps, and they cracked bones to reach the rich marrow inside. It was this nutrition, fat, protein, brain fuel, that powered their growing intelligence. The savannah was shaping them, forcing them to think beyond instinct. For the first time in Earth's history, survival was not only about strength or speed, it was about memory, planning, and imagination. But perhaps the most powerful change was in how they looked at each other. Alone, a human was vulnerable. Together they were unstoppable. Groups of early humans worked as one, surrounding prey, driving predators away, watching over the young and weak. The bonds of community were forming, deeper than anything in the animal kingdom. When one fell, the others helped. When food was scarce, it was shared. This was the dawn of something eternal, the sense that survival was not just about oneself, but about the group. And with community came something even greater: migration. Around 1.8 million years ago, humans began to move beyond Africa, stepping into Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. It was the first great expansion of our species. Armed with stone tools, knowledge of the land, and unyielding determination, they spread into new territories. They followed rivers, crossed valleys, and braved unknown landscapes. They were no longer bound to one place. Humanity was beginning to take over the world. This was the legacy of life 1.8 million years ago. A fragile existence balanced on the edge of danger, yet filled with innovation, cooperation, and resilience. They did not build cities or carve monuments, but they carried within them the seeds of everything to come: tools, fire, communication, migration. These were not just survival skills. They were the first steps toward civilization. And when you look back, across the gulf of time, you realize something powerful. We are not so different. The same instincts that kept them alive, the need for community, the hunger for knowledge, the courage to face the unknown, still live in us today. Their world may be long gone, but their spirit remains, carried in our bones, our minds, and our stories. This was life 1.8 million years ago, not the end of a chapter, but the beginning of humanity's greatest journey.